Okay, so let's talk about the nature and effects of obligations. And for this one, we'll be discussing Article 1163, Article 1164, and Article 1165. Okay, so Article 1163, the big main idea is that there is responsibility that comes with fulfilling an obligation. So in word for word, it says every person obliged to give something is also obliged to take care of it with proper diligence of a good father of a family, unless the law or the stipulation of the parties requires another standard of care. In simple terms, it means if you have a responsibility to give something, you have to make sure that you do it and that you are responsible in doing it. This proper diligence of a good father of a family is just an example of the standard that must be done. However, unless it's specified there that it should have a different kind of standard, maybe, for example, a standard of a nurse taking care of a patient, or a standard of a librarian organizing its books. Unless there is something like that, the default is as if you were a good father taking care of your own family, make sure that you do what you said you would do. Okay, so let's move on to reason for provision. So, reason for provision is, in other words, what is the purpose of delivering the thing that should be delivered? So, it could be for enjoyment or purpose. This is what, yeah, that's what I mean. So next is diligence required. This means preserving the thing. So in other words, it's how well you take care of the obligation. So if you are required to teach, you make sure that the person that you're teaching is actually understanding the thing instead of just throwing out random bits of information that don't actually make sense to the student. So that is what diligence required means. When we say diligence, we say the the discipline needed to make sure that the action is done well. Okay. So effects of breach. Now, effects of breach just means, sorry, effects of breach just means the consequence of not fulfilling the obligation correctly. So when we say Article 1163, we're talking about the proper diligence of a good father in fulfilling an obligation. Now, having actual consequences of breaches, it's a constant reminder for you to do the thing with proper diligence. So, an example of effects of breach are perhaps your contract gets, you don't get as much of the benefits from the contract. Another one is maybe the terms and conditions would be adjusted. So there are many different consequences from breach. So if you want to avoid experiencing these consequences, you have to make sure that you do these actions in an obligation with proper diligence of a good father of a family. So that's all for 1163. Let's move on to 1164. So in 1163, we talked about proper diligence and doing things correctly. So 1164 is about the fruits of an obligation. And when we say fruits, we're talking about, in a way, okay, so when we say fruits, we're talking about the things that are produced from another thing. So I'll give you an example. The fruits of land would be maybe the vegetables that were grown there, or perhaps any treasure that was found. So when we talk about Article 1164, it's differentiating the rights to the fruits compared to the rights of when you receive the thing. So let's break this down, okay? The creditor has a right to the fruits of the thing from the time the obligation to deliver it arises. However, he shall acquire no real right over it until the same has been delivered to him. Okay, so we have the fruit of the thing and we have the thing. So there are different kinds of fruits. So there are natural fruits, which are spontaneous products of soil, so like vegetables, fruits, animals in the soil. Then we have industrial fruits, which is, in a way, rent is an example of industrial fruits. I'm sorry, industrial fruits are more about things that are produced by land. So these are crops like corn. So natural fruits are more of the spontaneous products. It's not being grown by actual people. It's just there. Industrial fruits are there on purpose, such as corn, other kinds of vegetables. For civil fruits, it's more about what these you know as properties can produce. So a good example is rent, because rent is something that is produced from owning an asset such as a home or rental estate property. So natural fruits are things that are made naturally. Industrial fruits are made artificially, or other words, put there on purpose. And civil fruits are things that are done by virtue of a juridical relation, such as rental payments. Okay, so that just clears you up a bigger understanding on what different kinds of fruits are. So now that you know what fruits are, we actually want to differentiate fruits and the actual thing. So fruits of the thing, you will only get the right of the fruits of the thing when the obligation to deliver it arises. But you will only get the real right over it until the same has been delivered to you. So what does this mean? So let's say you are having something delivered to you, but it's not in your possession yet. So for example, you're buying a home, right? So you trying to buy a home. This is just an example. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's correct, but get the basic gist of the idea. So you're trying to buy a home, and you're it's being delivered to you. So once it's being delivered to you, you have the right over rent. You have the right of receiving rent, but you do not own the property yet because it hasn't been delivered to you yet. It's still being delivered. So once it's being delivered to you, now you have a real right over the property, which is the thing. So let's differentiate real property, real right, and personal right. So let's differentiate between personal and real right. So the basic gist of it is that real right is about owning something that is enforceable to the whole world. But personal right, it's about your relationship with another person. So let's give an example. Let's say you have a right to ask someone to give you chocolate. That's a personal right that you receive chocolate from this person. But it doesn't mean that you're going to receive chocolate from every single person, right? You can't go up to a stranger and force them to give you chocolate, right? So that is the difference between personal and real life. Real right is more about what is set in stone towards the entire world, while personal right is just between one person, an active subject, and the passive subject, and the fulfillment of that object to give, to do, or not to do. So when we go back to Article 1164, we see that they shall acquire no real right. So when we say real right, remember it's about enforcement around universally. Okay, so I hope that clears things up. So let's move on to Article 1165. So Article 1165. When what is to be delivered is a determinate thing, the creditor, in addition to the right granted him by Article 1170, may compel the debtor to make the delivery. Okay, so let's remove Article 170 because we haven't learned it yet. We don't need to know about it just yet. So when what is to be delivered is a determinate thing, you, the active subject, may compel the passive subject to make the delivery. Okay, so what do we already know? We already know about delivery. Delivery is the thing being sent to you. Now, what is this article trying to say? It's saying that if it is a determinate thing, then the one who's doing the thing, sorry, if the thing that is demanded is a determinate thing, then the debtor can be forced to give the delivery. So not only will the debtor have to give up the thing, but the debtor has to be the one to make the delivery. So for example, if you are ordering food online, right? And this is just an example. If you're ordering food online and it's supposed to be self-pickup, but then if it's a determinate thing, then you can force the person that you're buying it from to deliver it to your doorstep. So that is the image that you want to have when seeing Article 1165. So it's all well and good, but what is a determinate thing? So a determinate thing is something that is specific. So it's very focused. It's so if we were talking about determinate thing, we're thinking about if you're describing a car, you would say it's a Honda. Its license plate is B1164SKA. It's that specific. However, if you're talking about an indeterminate thing, it only has reference to a class or genus. So it's not as specific. So if the thing that is to be delivered is determinate, meaning that it's specific, that it's beyond just the class or the genus, then you can force the debtor to make the delivery. So that is 1165. Okay, so I hope that I was able to clarify that for you. Article 1163, Article 1164, and Article 1165. The first three articles about nature and effects of obligations. Let me know if there were any misunderstandings.